This session will be on arriving at a fire incident and what the proper procedures are if you come to check in at the incident and want to go out on the fire line. We're going to start with an incident which has an incident command team working on the incident, information officers on site, and an incident command post. In that case, your crew would go directly to the incident command post. Some of the incident command posts will actually have a security gate. And so you need to check in at the security gate, and they will likely notify or call an information officer to come out and escort you to the information tent, where they'll get the information from you on where you want to go, what kind of a story you want to do, and provide you with the proper personal protective equipment and an escort to take you out to the fire line if that's the story you want. It is always wise, no matter if you're coming to an incident where there is an incident command team or one that is a field incident that you're going directly to the fire in the incident, to call first. And the best way to get a phone number, if you don't have it, would be to call the Minnesota Interagency Fire Center at 218-327-4558 and ask if there's a contact number for the particular incident you're interested in going to. If you have called ahead, then the information staff or someone will be expecting you at the incident. If you've not called ahead and you're at a fire camp, you check in at the gate, and as I said, an information officer will brief you and escort you to the fire line. In a non-team situation, where there's not an incident command team on the fire, there's no incident command post set up, if you go directly to the fire incident, look for someone who's parked on a road, talking on a radio, and observing the fire from the side. The reason again being, we're going to go over personal protective equipment in a minute. We don't want you just walking out into the fire line or walking into the flood ground or walking onto an incident without being properly prepared for the safety concerns that might occur on that incident. So in that case, you would go to a fire chief or an on-site incident commander who likely will be on a truck or in a communication vehicle by the incident. Check in with them, tell them the kind of story you want, and then follow their directions. Again, it's unsafe to be on any kind of an incident without the proper protective equipment. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about what that proper protective equipment is. And we're going to do it specifically for wildfire situations in this circumstance. First of all, we have clothing. Our clothing consists of a Nomex or fire retardant fabric shirt. We call these yellows and greens for obvious reasons. You also will be given a pair of Nomex fire retardant fabric pants. You need to come to the incident with a pair of boots. That's the one thing it's hard for us to provide for you. Everything else we can get out of our supply, an equipment van, and provide for you. They need to be totally leather boots. We want them over ankle high, 7 or a 9 inch. If you come in a non-leather boot, like a lot of the hiking boots are now, which have nylon, Gore-Tex, synthetic fabric over the outside, again, because all those synthetic fabrics easily melt in heat, that's not a proper boot to have on the fire line. So we want an entire leather boot. We prefer to have a Vibram sole on it, but that's more a preference. If you come in a proper leather boot and it doesn't have the Vibram sole, we're not going to keep you off the fire ground. So boots you need to provide for yourself. The other thing you'll be issued is a helmet or a hard hat. And the hard hats will have chin straps on. If you're on the fire ground walking, you just put the hard hat on your head the same as you would on a construction site. In some situations, you'll be issued goggles and gloves. Those are the other two pieces of personal protective equipment. Goggles we do use more around aircraft and equipment than we do just on the basic fire line. although all firefighters that are out on the fire line have their goggles on their helmets. If you're coming to a fire camp that's been going for a long time, we're going to step back again to an incident command post incident management team. If it's a major incident, they may be setting us up press briefings. Those press briefings will be at a specific time each day. They'll be put in the news information that's sent out and put on the website so that you can have that time and location. They may be at the incident command post. They may be at another location that better serves the needs for a press briefing. Quite often, if that's the situation, at the conclusion of the press briefing and the questions, there will be a follow-up tour for media out to the fire line or out to an aircraft base or other places that might be of interest for a story. So that's another option if it's a larger incident. An incident such as that was Pagami that we had here a couple years ago up at Ely. We did press briefings in the U.S. Forest Service Ranger Station and then did our media tours to various locations escorted after that. Aviation presents its own set of concerns. If you're planning on just sending an aircraft to fly over the fire ground, the first step that you need to do is to call our aviation desk. The number for that is 218-327-4582. I'm also going to put the General Interagency Fire Dispatch number up here, so if you want to be patched into the information desk or the aviation desk, and those numbers are busy, you can call 218-327-4558. When you call the aviation desk, if you're going out to a fire, they're going to ask you a couple of questions. They're going to ask you what time you plan on arriving, what kind of an aircraft you're going to be flying, what the tail numbers on that aircraft are, or the identification numbers for that aircraft, if it happens to be a helicopter, and who the pilot is going to be. They will write that down, and then they will give you a radio frequency that you should call when you come into the airspace around the incident. In some cases, actually in a lot of cases, there's a flight restriction that's put on. So before you plan to fly, you should check the flight restrictions and make sure that there is not one for that area, or if there is one for the area, what the specifics of it are. What elevation you need to fly at, again, what the radio frequency would be to contact. Quite often, the standard frequency that we use is 122.925. That is in the majority of cases. However, if there's multiple incidents going on and they want to have a specific air frequency for that incident because they're overlapping airspace, they may have a different radio frequency. So if you're just flying through the area, if your pilot is out doing other stories, doing other getting other information, flying someone somewhere and happens to see a fire going on and nobody's called in, the 122.925 would be the frequency he should bring up to try and locate someone on the fire. If there's aircraft in the air, it's important to note that there will be someone in the fire situation who serves as the air traffic controller for that incident. And he's the one that will answer you and direct you as to how he wants you to enter that airspace, what he wants you to do in terms of elevation, and if there are things like CL-215s that are going to be coming in that might be filling in a location where you can't see, helicopters that might be taking water at a location that you can't see, other aircraft that might be at a retardant base loading and coming out. And so he will tell you what the traffic is going to be, where it's going to be located at, what they're going to be doing, and where he wants you to be safe.
Again, in any kind of a fire situation, safety is our #1 priority. If you're in the airspace and it causes our operation to be unsafe, we will not drop water. We will cease our operation until you've left the airspace. Again, safety is our #1 priority, and we're just asking for your cooperation. The media has been very good in giving us that cooperation. So we're just reminding you that that needs to be continued. If you're going to an air base to do a story, and we have primary air bases around the state of Minnesota where our CL-215s and our Fireboss aircraft and our single engine air tankers, or SEADs, are usually located. The primary bases are in Brainerd and Bemidji and Hibbing. We have other bases that occasionally operate out of Warroad in the northwest and Anoka down by the Twin Cities. And again, if you call the air desk number 327-4582, they can tell you what aircraft is stationed at what base, and if they're on the ground, and if you want to do a specific story on aircraft, connect you with someone at that air base that should be your contact person when you arrive there to talk to. If you're going to be doing a story at the air base, there's specific personal protective equipment that's needed. Incidents that you might be doing a story at an air base, if there's a prescribed burn, there would be a base in which the helitorch is located, which might be an interesting story that people frequently don't get to see that piece of equipment. In that case, you'll want to make sure you have all of the personal protective gear we've been talking about. Your hard hat, you'll have to have the chin strap down. If you're out on any kind of an aircraft base, you'll have to have your gloves on. And in some cases, not a lot of cases, but once in a while, they'll request that you have your goggles. If you fly in an aircraft, you need to fly in any of our aircraft with special Nomex gloves, not leather gloves, but special Nomex gloves that you'll be given. So again, most of the time, we can outfit you for those situations, but we need to know ahead of time, because a lot of our air bases don't have yellows and green Nomex laying around and extra hard hats and things that we can just gather together that would fit you on a moment's notice. Giving us a little bit of advance notice, we can usually have that and have that available for you. The other piece of equipment I'd like to go through today is your fire shelter. And if you were around during the Pagami incident, you probably heard that some people deployed their fire shelters. And people are always wondering, what do they look like? So I'm going to take this out and I'm going to show you. This is a practice shelter. The actual fire shelters that we carry on our belt and that you'll be, again, required to carry when you're out on the fire line are similar to this, only the color is different. And once the seal on those is broken, they can't be reused. So we have certain fire shelters that we just take to reuse. Because this is going to be noisy, I'm going to take a minute and shut my mic off. In order to deploy a fire shelter, there are two handles on it. One says left, one says right. Pretty easy. You take it out. You'll be given directions on this. You stand inside the fire shelter. You grab the sides, pull it down over the top of you, and use it like a little miniature tent.